Could you tell me about yourself?
Like my age.
Yeah, your name and your home country.
Shoot, I forgot I was supposed to. Okay. My name is Mariam. I'm 17 years old. I'm Libyan Canadian, and I'm happy to be in this interview podcast thing.
Thank you. Glad to have you here. And could you please tell me about your background? You said that you're Canadian. Tell me about your background, how come you moved to Turkey and so on. Or if you've been to other countries before.
So I'm Canadian because I was born in Canada. I was raised there for the first 7 years of my life. I moved here to Turkey because my father had business here, so we all just moved here. And I'm still here because, life is like that. So, I didn't really go to much, English-speaking schools. In fact, I went to Libyan schools because my parents wanted me to speak Arabic, and I wasn't very good at that when I was a child, so it actually helped me. Not that I'm that good at it now, but at least I can do grammar, so that's nice.
That's so good. And from Canada directly you moved to Turkey, right?
Yes, I've never lived in Libya, but I have visited many times, and I know my relatives, so.
That's good. So you've been here for a few years.
In Europe, actually about 10, but I still can't speak Turkish, so I can understand well enough though.
All right. What is the reason that you think that you can't speak Turkish fluently?
Honestly, it's had to do with the fact that in our schools, we didn't get any education to do with Turkish, just the basic alphabet. And I'm not very much of a social person, so I don't really have any friends outside of school. So, I can't really practice the language, but I can understand well enough because of TV, obviously, and the people that I see and interact with on a daily basis.
That's good. Thank you. And if I want you to compare the education system in Canada with Turkey, what would be your opinion on these two education systems?
I don't think I can provide a sufficient answer because, firstly, I only attended grade school, or more specifically, kindergarten and first grade in Canada, and I haven't attended any Turkish school, so I can't really compare the Turkish education system. But for the Libyan education system, I can provide an answer to that. I think that in terms of the level of education, it's mostly strong. I'm talking about the Libyan education system. In terms of scientific subjects such as math, sciences, and of course the Arabic curriculum is somewhat moderate, I think, because I know that there are better ones. But English is what I would describe as a low-level English because it's taught as a second language, so most people wouldn't struggle with it, but I found it very, very easy because it was like grade school level for me.
All right, that's good. Now, let's talk about your life in high school. What has been your most memorable moment in high school so far?
Honestly, I can't really remember anything. I think high school life for me is two parts actually. One where I attended this school that I should mention, and one where I attended my Libyan school. So, also, I think it's kind of hard to describe because it also started during COVID.
Yeah.
And also because in my old school, high school starts at grade 10, not grade 9. So that was when I started high school. So I didn't really have much of a life. I didn't go anywhere. But I think my most memorable
Yeah.
memorable moment is nothing bad. Has this it?
No, that's good. Mullah.
I guess I don't really have a specific moment, but I really cherish the experiences that I had so far, such that I couldn't have in my old school. Like, I could communicate more with people because English is my first language, so I was more comfortable speaking that. And also, there were more events that happened that didn't happen in my old school that I was happy and more comfortable to participate now.
Yep.
And also, I think I became a more outgoing person, so I think I managed to go out more, and for the first time I went out with friends without my mom, so with this one. So I think it was important, like high school life was important to me because I became more of an independent person.
Yep. That's really good. That was a really good point. And you also refer to pandemic, to COVID. And I want to know your opinion on it. How do you think the pandemic has affected your high school experience?
Honestly, most people would say that the pandemic would affect them negatively, but I think somehow it positively affected me because before I was a completely different person. I was more shy and I rarely would talk at school. I would go to school and just not say a word, like maximum 1 or 2 words.
Seriously?
Yes. Because I couldn't speak very well or comfortably with people, and already my accent was a mix of both accents of my country.
Yep.
So people wouldn't understand where I'm from or wouldn't understand how I would speak. So it would be hard for me to speak. But after that, after the pandemic, I became more social, mainly because I spent a lot of time at home. So I couldn't really talk with people, and I got to discover myself more and my hobbies and my personality. And I learned that I shouldn't just conform to what people want me to be, and it's not a shame for me to show what I really like, So I think this affected me positively, and it made me a better person.
That's really good. The improvement that you experienced during COVID is just uncanny. That was just great. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about also your academic and extracurricular activities. How do you balance your academic activities or academic skills and extracurricular activities?
Honestly, I don't know. But what I like to think is that firstly, I'm not really a person that has much I don't have taxing extracurricular activities. I personally like to write and draw, so it doesn't really take much effort. So, but it does take a lot of time. So usually I like to prioritize my academic activities. That's the word.
Yeah.
Anyway, first, because those have a deadline and my hobbies don't. But I do like to put in some time for my hobbies, because if I don't, I will have somewhat of a burnout, so I won't be able to focus on my academic activities. Yeah, that's basically it.
That's fine.
I do procrastinate on projects.
Really?
There is so much I haven't started on yet,
But that's all right.
but I should get.
That's all right.
Right.
But it's really good that you can just balance between them. Now, let's talk about also pressure and stress. How do you deal with stress and pressure from school and other responsibilities?
Honestly, I was going to make this point earlier.
Yep.
I was going to make this point earlier, but it's good that you asked this question. First, I think I like to put myself in the mentality that although schoolwork is important for grades, I don't make it something that forces me to do something, I like to think that if I can't, I try my best to do something, but if I cannot do it, even after I try, sorry.
That's all right.
But how was I?
You say,
Even after I try, I don't forgot my train of thought.
that's all right.
Oh, what did I say?
I asked the question again if you like.
No, I remember the question. I just forgot what I was like. So, basically, if I can't do something even after I try hard enough, I don't worry about it because this is the extent of my abilities. So if I can't do anything more, there's no point in trying more.
So you take responsibility.
I do take responsibility if I don't get good marks or if I don't succeed the way I want to, and I try harder next to him and I try to learn from my mistake.
So good. It's a very, very good habit.
Also, I think what helps is that my parents are supportive of me and also understand my situation, and I explain myself to them in a calm and in a calm way. I don't go through mental breakdowns unless if I'm late in a deadline, but I don't do that to them because it's not their responsibility of what I do and what I didn't do.
That's really good. And how did you get to this just the point in your life that you can just take responsibility of your acts or of the things that don't go right in your life?
I think firstly, my parents were always supportive people, so it's work helped a lot, and that's how I was raised. Second, I think my situation, like the circumstance and experiences that I went through in my life, especially my old school, my Libyan school, usually teachers would, not all, but most teachers would just, scold children if they wouldn't bring their homework in, especially in elementary school, because the purpose of that, I think, was to teach kids responsibility, but I think that's totally the opposite. But I learned from this, and I learned that if I don't get something done, it's not the end of the world. I think this comes from the first time you fail, it will be hard because it's a shock to you, But soon you can understand that after you failed, if it's done and over with, nothing happened in your life, like nothing changed, and you can still get better at.
I totally agree with you. Now, I want to just seek advice from you. What advice would you give to incoming freshmen?
Firstly, I would like to give the advice of don't procrastinate like me.
You don't procrastinate, by the way.
No, I do it all last minute.
Really? But the result is always great.
Yeah, don't procrastinate unless if you're me. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, really. If you have something that you're good at, I suggest you leave that to the side and focus on something that you're not good at first. This is if you have the time to do that. And, focus on your weaknesses and don't prioritize schoolwork over your social life, because this is also something you need to work on. And if you prioritize your schoolwork, I think that, you could run into problems in the future because you didn't practice your social skills. And that's also, in my opinion, I think that's even more important than schoolwork, because social interactions are very important and necessary in life. And also, I would like try new things. In high school, you have the opportunity to try new things and discover your hobbies and interests more. So if you have the opportunity to do something, just take it and don't be afraid of what people will say about you or think about you, because honestly, it's none of their business. And you shouldn't feel afraid of people's opinions on you, because honestly, that just makes you who you are as a person, and what people think shouldn't change that.
That's really good, very good pieces of advice. Now, out of curiosity, and if it's fine with you, could you provide some examples from your personal life that you implemented these pieces of advice?
Yes. What is the first thing you said?
Sure. Yeah, the pieces of advice that you provided were just awesome. I want you to, if it's fine with you, to provide some examples of how you implemented these pieces of advice in your own life. For example, being more social, not procrastinating, or other pieces that you mentioned?
First, I mentioned like studying things that you're not good at first, and leaving the things that you already know or are good at on the back burner. So, this is a very general example, but I wasn't very good at math at first, like when I came to this school, because in my old school it was actually in Arabic, so I had to like change languages and do math at the same time. So I decided to spend my free time, the ones that I'm not using to do my hobbies, to study or practice math in English, so I don't have to translate every single time.
You're right.
Every single time I have to solve a problem. And that honestly helped me more because it made me faster. And it helped me understand in the lesson more because the teacher's going to be writing in English immediately. And I still had time to study for other things as well. But, it was easier, really, and I got to save a lot of time.
That's great.
For social life, I think I already...
Yes, you mentioned that.
Or gave an example.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm not going to mention that. But trying new things, I can give an example for that. In my old school, I mentioned that we didn't have many, activities that happened. Although when we did, I tried my best to participate in this, even though I was traumatized by being forced to sing, being a student. But I learned from that experience because I learned that it's not a good idea for me to sing on stage. Because, and also this school, I decided to try even more things and try to register for more things, such as I mentioned.
Yeah, that's fine.
Such as the psychology club, even though I really don't do anything. No, I'm joking. I do.
Yeah.
No, I do. I do simple tasks because there were so many people.
Yeah.
But at least I'm doing something, and it actually gives me the experience of how these things work. And if I ever come across another opportunity like this, it won't be a new experience for me. I'll have something on my belt that I could use.
Definitely. And that was good. And also, as I personally observed that you are into, for example, drawing, if I'm not mistaken. And could you also tell us about that part? How did you get involved in drawing and other things that attracted your attention?
Honestly, I think I don't remember when I got into drawing. My mother said that when I was a child, I just used to randomly scribble on a paper like I was a baby. But I would still draw stick drawings of people. So my mom was like, she's going to be an artist. Because he said that at that young age, I was able to know that a person consists of a head and arms and legs. My dad just laughed.
You're serious?
Yeah. My mom also used to draw. And I do have relatives on my dad's side that drew actually paint paintings. But honestly, what I believe got me into drawing was I like to watch cartoons that my mom would put for us. Usually we would watch educational cartoons so we could learn, but my mom would sometimes let us watch Pokemon, which was cool.
Yep.
And I really was obsessed with that as a child, me and my sister. And I would learn to draw just so I could draw them. I would trace from the computer, and that honestly would teach me how to draw these things, because after I would trace, I would learn the shapes. And I just learn from watching things and just practicing, honestly. But something that did help was in my old school, we had this teacher who was very supportive of art, and he taught me how to use different tools and be more comfortable with using watercolors and honestly practice more. So I think it's a combination of my own efforts and my own love for the hobby, as well as my interests and other people's support.
That's interesting. Do you have any other hobbies?
I do like writing. It's something that I enjoy. I'm a creative person, honestly, so I like to show my creativity mostly through drawing. But when I can't really take out the idea that I want through a paper, because either because it's long or because it's more to do with a character's thoughts or thought process or inner feelings, or because I'm just too lazy to just pick up a pencil and draw. I like to write, so it really helps me either understand the character or the idea that I want, or, just amuse myself for a while. And it's also cool because when I'm bored, I can really read it.
Oh, really? That's good. I have also another question about your hobby. As you said, you like also drawing. Have you ever thought of choosing art as a future career?
Honestly, I think anyone who draws would think of that. I did think of choosing art as a future career because, honestly, I love drawing. But at the same time, I also am passionate about medicine and I really want to help people. And it's something that I really want to do, So that's medicine is my first option. But I think I can consider art as a second option if, for any reason, I might choose to do that. But the main reason why I keep that as a second option is that art is a hobby to me, and I feel like if I do it as a job, I won't be able to honestly do it well, because there are some people that can draw what people want them to do, but I'm somebody that draws what I want, so it's harder for me to use people's ideas instead of my own.
I see. So in that case, your ideas will be unique. So I think there will be a great market for your ideas. From that perspective, also we can look at it. So yours will be unique.
I think if I ever choose to make art a career, I would become a comic artist. I have experience in...
Really, that's good. All right. Now, let's continue with our current education system. What is your opinion on the current education system? Its advantages or flaws?
In terms of curriculum or just the...
You can go over both of them.
I think in terms of curriculum, it's... I don't really have much experience in this, but I think it's... for me, it works well. Most things work well. I like the options, like the many options, especially for high schoolers, to choose what they want to study from now. But I feel like it could be confusing for those who don't really know what they're going to do in their life yet. Because a lot of people honestly think that, like, they stress out about what they want to be because they think that they're late in choosing what their future careers. But I think it's still early because people still have time. But
just about the education system, it was a general question.
In terms of the, like,
you mentioned teaching
technique.
Yep.
I believe that depends on the teacher. There are some teachers that handle it very well. They manage to keep the curriculum on track with the time and also, like, provide like all the students with the knowledge that they need, and honestly they pay attention to all the students, so they can, even if those students aren't good at the subject, they manage to help them in a way, like understand more. And there are some teachers that don't succeed in this. I think from my observations, either because they don't care enough, those are rare, or because the teachers can't handle, first thing, they can't handle a large class, so they won't be able to handle everyone, or because the teacher themselves is not like suitable for either the subject or teaching in general. So I think that's a problem.
Do you have any solutions for those problems?
I think first the school should have a selective process. They should honestly work harder to ensure that the teachers that they hire are exceptional, or at least they know how to do the job well enough. When I see all the schools that I've been to, they usually bring teachers inside the classroom to, watch the teacher teach, which I think is to observe the teachers and their performance. But I think that's a very, excuse my language, it's not that idea, because once the teachers, the supervisors that come in to see the teacher changes completely, 180 degrees.
Serious?
Yes, because when somebody's being observed and they know they're being observed, they're going to be on their best behavior, not on their normal behavior. And this happened to me several times.
Yep.
So I believe that first, how to solve this, I think supervisors and teachers should listen to students' complaints and parents' complaints.
Yep.
And because, especially if there's more than one complaint, because obviously that means something is wrong.
You're right.
And I think they should, instead of sending teachers to watch that teacher, I think they should observe students' grades.
Yep.
And marks and their in general knowledge, because while excuse my boldness, but marks can be falsified, let's be honest, and they should just check the students' comprehension of the subject, especially important subjects like science.
Yeah, you're right. And that was a really good point that you mentioned. Some teachers change their behavior when they are observed. They are being observed.
I think anyone could change their behavior when observed, students included.
Yeah, you're right. I also had a very similar experience. For example, I had problematic classes. And in those problematic classes, when my supervisor came to the class to observe the class, my class just became the best class ever.
Exactly.
And I was really shocked. And that's why I wanted my supervisor to come to my class more often. And you're right. Probably we just change our behavior when we are observed or we are being observed. Now, let's continue with teenagers. In your perspective, what do you think is the biggest issue facing teenagers today?
I think there are actually many issues. Firstly, I like to mention bullying, and also, bullying is a very big issue for not only teenagers but all. I think everyone, whether they're students or maybe even into adulthood,
Yep.
if the problem persists. But in high school or teenage years, bullying becomes more of a problem because everybody's trying to become someone.
Yep.
And if somebody doesn't fit this social...
Okay, that's part. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. You too. All right, thank you. Hope to see you on. They will definitely keep them out. Could you please also close the door? Close the door, please. Thank you. I will cut that part. I'm repeating. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Now, I'd like to know your opinion on teenagers a bit more. What do you think is the biggest issue facing teenagers today?
I believe that there are many issues facing teenagers. The first of them being bullying. Because in teenage years, everyone's trying to become their own person and discovering themselves, and they're trying to find their hobbies, their interests. And if someone doesn't fit those social norms, especially in, let's say, a class, then either they're going to be ridiculed for it or they're going to be avoided. And I think that affects the personality of the person a lot and their emotions, because in the end, people all want to, a person cannot live alone, So everybody wants to at least be accepted. And especially if the thing that they're being avoided for isn't something wrong or like morally incorrect. So either that will like make that person not enjoy their hobbies anymore, or I think if it's severe enough, they could go into depression. And I think that's something I've noticed a lot with a lot of students.
That's so sad.
Yes. Another, like, something else that I've noticed is that teenagers don't really speak with their parents a lot. And that's honestly something that has always surprised me among, like, a lot of my old friends.
Yep.
And a lot of classmates that I know. I think that although that you're growing up now and you're becoming your own person, you shouldn't really shy away from telling your parents things and talking more with your family, because after all, they're your parents and they need to know what your life is. Because sometimes they need information to help you, if they don't know who you are, how will they help you in any way? And it also helps relieve stress from school when you can just be open and talk with people, especially your close family. It really helps me a lot. I know that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And those 2 points that you mentioned are major points that I also observed. My last question would be your solution for the issues that you mentioned.
For bullying, it's very complicated because I don't think there's one solution to bullying. Because there are many reasons, that's why. With my own experiences, I have been bullied a lot as a child, but not very severely, so I can't really speak about severe cases.
Yep.
I've also been avoided, so I can talk about that a bit. I think first you have to have confidence in yourself and know that you have what you like, and your interests doesn't need to be the same as everyone else's. And you can find other ways to express those interests without like forcing others to like what you like. And you can try to find people that also like your interests. They don't need to be in your class or even your grade. You can still find them, and they don't even need to be at school. You can go outside and you can meet people,
Yep.
Another thing is, when somebody is being bullied by someone, the first thing that you should report it, because that's honestly the correct decision, even if you feel like you shouldn't. And tell your parents, because your parents need to know. And this happens a lot, nothing happens because supervisors don't do anything, or they don't make a correct decision, so they don't really fix the problem. They just let it slow down for now. I think avoid that the person that's bullying you as much as possible, but and also don't let that person control your life. Basically, you still have a life and you can do your own things, and if the bullying persists, keep on reporting it, because eventually someone is going to have to do something. And if not, honestly, just tell your parents and just leave that school, because if that school is not helping you, then that's not the place for you.
You're right, and I agree with the process that you mentioned, just reporting and then discussing it with parents, probably the admin, and then finally, if nothing helps, you can just leave this. And also you mentioned about discussing things with parents, but a lot of students don't do that, don't share their issues with their parents. Yeah, sorry I interrupted.
No, it's fine. No, I remembered it while you were asking me the question. Some children or some students don't talk with their parents or mention bullying to their parents. For many reasons, mainly because they're ashamed that they're being bullied, or they feel like they can't talk to their parents in the first place, or maybe they're being threatened by the student themselves. First, for the threatening, I think the students should think they should know that the threats are mainly empty threats. if the student that's threatening them is telling them that they can't tell their parents, or they're gonna, I don't know, beat them up at school or spread rumors about them, it's actually more of a confirmation that you should tell your parents, because that person is basically threatening you with either assault or assault on your character. So that's more of a reason to tell your parents. It's not like he's gonna drive up to school and, I don't know, beat your parents up or something.
Yeah, you're right.
Something else that I was gonna mention is that if you're too shy to tell your parents, you should find a comfortable way to tell them, because your parents, I don't know about all families, but parents should be understanding people, and they should care about the problems in their child's life. So just let your parents know about if you're being bullied or anything. And don't feel shy, because you did nothing wrong, and the purpose of this isn't to show your faults, but rather to show the fault of the person who is bullying you and find a solution for this problem.
That's great. Thank you so much. This is the end of this episode. I really appreciate your time, and it was just great, and I'm looking forward to having you again for another episode.
Thank you, Sarah. I was happy to be a part of this episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.